February is a month-long celebration of Black history. In 1926, scholar and historian Dr. Carter Woodson, widely known as the father of Black history, created Negro History Week to recognize the achievements of Black Americans. It was renamed Black History Week in 1972. With a presidential proclamation in 1976 by Gerald Ford, it became Black History Month. One of the most decisive and pivotal moments in Black history was the volatile and sometimes deadly civil rights movement. Protests, marches, and even murder mark this crucial period in not only Black history, but American history. These are some of the powerful images that forced a nation to change.
Today issued an executive order directing the use of troops under federal authority to aid in the execution of federal law at Little Rock, Arkansas.
The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened.
This law will ensure them the right to vote.
Well, said I'm on the battlefield for my Lord, 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 Lord. On the battlefield for my Lord. Said I promised him that I would serve him till I die. Gotta keep moving on. On the battlefield for my Lord. Said I'm on the battlefield for my Lord, 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 Lord. On the battlefield for my Lord. Said I promised him that I would serve him till I die. Gotta keep moving on the battlefield for my Lord.
Those images had a profound impact on the people we're going to introduce you to today. We begin with one local woman who was in her late 20s when Dr. Woodson created Negro History Week. She lived through it all, the highs and the lows of gaining equal rights. We want to introduce you to this extraordinary woman. Alberta Thompson is a living history lesson. At 109 years old, she has a very real perspective of the past century.
My mother worked for a white family. My father worked for a white man.
Miss Alberta's family was better off than most black families. She was born November 5th, 1898 in Woodstock, Virginia. It was a time and place in which working for a wealthy white family could offer a black person a higher quality of life.
I worked for Mrs. Baldwin. I told her I didn't know how to boil water. And she said she'd teach me. And she was one of the richest people in Woodstock.
She says the family treated her well. Her husband was also considered well employed.
Well, he was a chauffeur, for one of the richest men in Woodstock.
Miss Alberta and her husband had a home. They had a son. She says it was a good life, but she knew her place.
I knew I couldn't go in places where they would go and sit down and eat with them, but they would take me to their homes and set me at their table.
And for the early 1900s, that was good enough. It was all she knew. Miss Alberta was already a senior citizen when the Civil Rights Movement and Dr. King's dream took America by storm. For older blacks now set in their ways, change was not immediately embraced. Miss Alberta remembers her first trip to a previously white-only restaurant.
Well, I didn't want to go. I had my place to go, but I went with my friend. There was all this bunch of miners got up there and ordered chitlins.
The memory sparks laughter now. At 109, she has a lot to be grateful for. She's one of the oldest living Americans. She was honored with a letter from President Bill Clinton when she turned 101 and by Governor Mike Easley on her 109th birthday. Now, her days are filled with bingo, family visits, and fresh memories. Well, sometimes to stand up for what you believe in, you have to sit down. 4 black students in a nonviolent act of defiance did just that. They staged a sit-in at a dime store lunch counter to protest the segregation of blacks and whites in public places. Almost 50 years later, the Woolworths, where it all began, still sparks emotion. Our Frank Graff shows us why.
The world's changed a lot since what happened in this Woolworths in downtown Greensboro turned the country upside down. February 1st, 1960. 4 freshmen at what was then called North Carolina Agricultural and Technical College ordered lunch at the whites-only lunch counter. The clerk refused. The students sat for 2.5 hours until the counter closed.
They wanted to definitely ensure rights for themselves as well as rights for future generations of African Americans. And they knew it was wrong. How is it that you can pay your money at a business, but yet you're still not allowed to sit down at that business to be served?
The action was planned for months. It wasn't the first sit-in in America, but it spurred others.
Students from A&T and from the high schools helped make it happen, and it was sustained.
Within a couple days, there were sit-ins here at the lunch counter at the Crest store. It's about a block away from Woolworths. Within a week, sit-ins were staged in Raleigh and Charlotte. Within a month, in 54 cities and 7 states across the South. But the world changed first on this street.
A lot of people don't even realize that this was the site of the sit-in.
The world's changed so much, students now attending A&T march past the store in awe of what their predecessors did.
Back then, people had to be made of stronger things, and we haven't had to face those types of adversities. So, truthfully, I'm not sure if I could.
Paul Knowles from Portland, Oregon, walked up after the students left.
You feel all of the emotions: the hate, the love, the passion, the where these people wanted to take us. Without what they have done and what these children are going to do in the future, it's very special.
The world changed here. It is still changing. In Greensboro, Frank Graff, NBC17 News.
Coming up, breaking the color barrier in Wake County. Hear from the courageous students who remember making history in the classroom and getting up close and personal to fight segregation, snapshot after snapshot.